When I was in Afghanistan, when I was in Iraq, I had many Muslims that were being killed by the enemy. I saw pictures of interpreters that worked with us who were found by the enemy and they were beheaded. I went in the villages where people were throwing acid on little girls that were going to school. Now, if you don't want me to stand up against that type of ideology, I got to tell you, I ain't changing, because I don't want to see that happen.
Alan B. West versus a Muslim on radical Islam. He was confronted by a Muslim at an event, and watch his response.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Shahryar Wahed. I'm from here in Coral Springs.
Welcome.
I actually have 3 little kids who were born down at Coral Springs Medical, just down the street, and I'm in small business. I would definitely encourage you and all your colleagues in DC to look at all those slices of that pie and see what you can do about it. I also have another concern because I also happen to be a Muslim, and my concern is that I've read some of your comments regarding Muslims, and I'm a little worried about my children's future if that ends up being a prevalent view in this country. I ask you if the opportunity exists, because as far as I'm aware, you haven't taken the opportunity to meet with your Muslim constituents to explain yourself or to hear them.
Well, I think I've been very clear in explaining myself. I think that my service in this country, my service overseas in the Islamic world has been very clear. And your children are American children. And when I say I will protect the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, that means for every single American. That means for your child. When I talk about these slides up here, that means ensuring the fiscal future for your children and their national security. But what I have to tell you, there is a radical element out there. And I never talk about Muslims. I talk about a radical Islamic ideology. I talk about a theocratic political construct, which is very threatening to not just me, but it's threatening to you. When I was in Afghanistan, when I was in Iraq, I had many Muslims that were being killed by the enemy. I saw pictures of interpreters that worked with us who were found by the enemy and they were beheaded. I went in the villages where people were throwing acid on little girls that were going to school. Now, if you don't want me to stand up against that type of ideology, I got to tell you, I ain't changing, because I don't want to see that happen.
Well, that is a crazy applause.
You know what? I'm very glad that you do, because I will tell you that for the majority, the overwhelming majority of Muslims here, I can't speak for everywhere because I'm only here, that is absolutely the case for them as well. So we applaud you for that. But again, I would think, and I still feel this is important, that you need to be able to meet with your constituents so that they understand. Well,
here we are.
But I don't.
He asked you for a meeting. You didn't agree.
Yeah.
No, let me tell you, and let's not turn this into a back and forth session.
And I don't want to either. Right?
This gentleman by the name of Nizar Hamza, okay, he is not asking for a sit-down meeting. He's asking for a confrontation. But, everything that I'm sitting here and talking about, it applies to you. It's no different. So I don't understand what everyone is trying to make me out to be some type of, devil or what have you. Let me tell you something. When I think about the fact that when people who stand up against this ideology, being a Muslim or whoever, Wafa Sultan has a fatwa on her head. Walid Faris has a fatwa on his head. I want to protect them so that they can stand up. And if we have people that won't stand up and provide you the opportunity to live and have the freedoms, you came here to this country for freedoms and opportunity. The 3 interpreters from Afghanistan that I helped them to get their green card to come here, they came here for freedom and opportunity. That's who I am. And so instead of you guys going out there and creating all of this rabble-rousing, read my record and understand who I am, and that will be the proof in the pudding.
Brilliant job there by Alan B. West. Again, what he's trying to point out here is, listen, you should be as concerned about radical Islam as we are, because they want to paint you guys as bad. They want to encapsulate the entire Muslim faith and try to paint it as something very extremely radical on the face of it. So brilliant response there. And Alan B. West is pointing out something very important. As a Muslim, as a person of the Islamic faith, you should be the most concerned about radical Islam, because I think it is the prevalent view of Westerners that somebody behind you screams Allahu Akbar, like happened recently on a flight where a guy got up and screamed Allahu Akbar and death to America, death to Israel. And the entire flight freaked out. 2 guys tackled the guy. I mean, okay, fine. He also said death to America and all this other stuff, but he said Allahu Akbar and then subsequently said those statements because they're connected in some way. In some way, for some reason, God is great is connected to, like the Islamic version of God is great is connected to murder and chaos and hate and all this other stuff. So in order to disconnect those two things, it's probably a good idea to root out Islamic extremism. And listen, I get it. You know, there are tons of pro-Israel Muslim Arabs like Loai al-Sharif, who, you know, is advocating for Israel, who is going out there and putting his life on the line. And tons of UAE, people in the UAE who are going and risking their life, you know, speaking out against a lot of Islamic extremism. But that's the problem. Their lives are in danger when they try to speak out against this. And so, as Tommy Robinson says, as all of these, you know, people that are very, very critical of Islam, it's like, if you don't want to be called extreme, maybe you reform. Maybe you root out extremism. Maybe you have condemnation of very extremist groups within your sort of constituency. And the problem is, a lot of the leadership, like I've said in previous videos, CAIR, a big Muslim organization in America, is incredibly radical, is like very extremely radical to the point of like totally pro-Hamas, totally pro-jihad, and all this other stuff. So listen, you know, like Bridget Gabrielle says, silent majority is irrelevant if they're not in leadership roles. So you can scream to the heavens that Islam is peaceful, but if the head of Syria is beheading Druze in the streets and half the Muslim countries are totalitarian shitholes, there's a problem. You know, you have a problem. And that seems to be the case at the moment, although I will say a lot of the Gulf states are reforming, and that is great. To support the channel, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/JewishUncensored. You can also go to our merchandise store, IsraelUncensored.com, and get merch. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.